In a 2007 press release discussing a major increase in the size of the National Dairy Council's funding commitment, the ADA said the sponsorship arrangement gave dairy producers prominent access to key influencers, thought leaders, and decision-makers in the food and nutrition marketplace. The release went on to illustrate with candor how the relationship benefits the Dairy Council. One quid pro quo of past sponsorship apparently included the ADA's endorsement of the Dairy Council's 3 a Day of Dairy campaign, which educates consumers and health professionals about the nutrition and health benefits of consuming 3 servings of fat-free or low-fat milk, cheese, and yogurt a day. The ADA release didn't disclose the extent of the Dairy Council's generosity, but judging from the size of other contributions from animal food producers to nonprofits, it's safe to assume it wasn't insignificant. The National Livestock and Meat Board, for example, gave $189,000 in 1 year to the American Heart Association. Dairy also seeks to extend its scientific influence by installing its people on boards, committees, and editorial panels of nutritional organizations and their journals. One of these people is Gregory Miller, who serves in multiple capacities: President of the Dairy Research Institute, Executive Vice President of the Dairy Council, and Committee Chair for the American Society for Nutrition. Miller and I spoke about dairy research. Among other things, I was curious about studies that have looked at industry influence in the scientific process. These studies find that industry-funded research is up to 4 times more likely to reach conclusions favorable to the sponsor than unfavorable. In one of these studies, researchers found that systematic bias favors products which are made by the company funding the research. According to Miller, the dairy industry provides a sort of public service through its support of nutrition research. With government funding continuing to shrink, Miller told me, industry has a responsibility to help fund some of the research that needs to be done out there. In light of such apparently selfless motives, who could accuse the dairy industry of bias? Furthermore, Miller assured me dairy research is not biased, twice using the Fox News slogan, "fair and balanced," to drive home the point. But what about the study that found industry-supported research is 4 times more likely to reach conclusions favorable to its sponsor? That study design is somewhat flawed, Miller told me. I would take it with a grain of salt. Miller sent me a number of published articles from industry-funded research. These studies have titles like Dairy Calcium Intake, Serum Vitamin D, and Successful Weight Loss, and, even catchier, Drinking flavored or plain milk is positively associated with nutrient intake and is not associated with adverse effects on weight status in U.S. children and adolescents. For anyone interested in just how fair and balanced this research is, a look at one study is enlightening. In 2010, researcher Patty Siri-Tarino of the Children's Hospital Oakland Research Institute and 3 colleagues published an article that found consumption of saturated fat does not cause heart disease. This article's surprising conclusion runs contrary to a significant and consistent line of published research that finds exactly the opposite, that dietary saturated fat causes heart disease. Not surprisingly, the news that eating fat doesn't lead to heart disease hit the blogs like celebrity wedding gossip. The animal food industry now trumpets the Siri-Tarino study as one of several said to debunk the myth that saturated fat is unhealthy. Unfortunately for those of us who love fatty foods, this news doesn't call for a celebratory pizza. The Siri-Tarino study suffers from what many research scientists consider a defect in methodology, failure to appropriately control for an important confounding factor. Siri-Tarino's article is a meta-study, that is, it compiles and evaluates research from a number of studies to reach an empirical conclusion. The saturated fat studies